Thank you for joining us for an episode of All About PR. If you're tuning in for the first time, on this podcast, we speak to experts from the field of PR and communication from across the world and bring you an interesting conversation on the subject every week. When you think of moving out of PR, there are a multitude of streams you can venture out into. But which one? And what is the most apt for you? And wouldn't you like to know whether a firm grounding in PR will be an advantage or disadvantage? Today, to answer these questions, we have Ruchi Kaushal, Global Marketing Manager, Car Workshops, Castrol, join us on the podcast to help PR professionals chart their career course beyond PR. A little more about her. Ruchi works in the oil and energy industry as a Global Marketing Manager. She describes herself as an organized creative and has worked in sales, marketing, and various brand roles for more than 16 years. She started her career in PR and corporate communication and diversified into sales and marketing function, where she has spent the last 14 years working across roles in India, Australia, Asia Pacific, and Germany. She's currently based in Hamburg, Germany, and spends her time collecting jazz records and taking long walks with a dog when not working. The dream life, if you ask me. So let's add her on. Hi, Ruchi. Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast today. Really lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Taranjit. Very happy to be here and talking to you.
So let's dive in. The first question I would like you to address is, what are the different roles that one can look at after or beyond PR if one were to look at diversifying in their career?
I think the various roles one can look at after having in PR completely depends on what's been your strong skill set and where is your inclination. So a lot of PR professionals do really well in internal comms, but also in brand and communications, if that is their strong set. But then getting into sales or getting into any of those functional roles is equally possible. I think more than PR, being a PR professional is one tag we associate ourselves with, but you really have to think and look, what are you good at and what makes you click? And I think if we listen to that and move that forward, the rest you would have to learn a lot of things on the way, but that's the fun about it as well.
So let me rephrase the question. What are the various roles that the industry at large would accept a PR professional in? A role that is non-PR?
There are two ways a PR professional can diversify in the industry. The easiest bit is going to be something that is on the communication lines, from moving from internal or public relations comm to brand comms. That's a relatively easy transition. But right. I am aware of the fact where you are also able to transition into business leading roles or sales role over time if you have that kind of skill set.
Interesting. Ruchi, before we get into this and delve into this a little deeper, can you help us understand a little more about your journey? I assume and I believe you also crossed borders to be able to diversify into that role.
Happy to talk about my grounding in academics is very strong in communications, and that eventually led me to start my career in PR. It's been a background of journalism and comms. However, within the communication studies that I was doing, there was broadcast comm, mass comm, but also brand comms. Once I was in, what makes you click is you still communicating either with internal teams, but primarily with external customers. So your grounding in communications is going to come in handy. You move into marketing or you move into sales or you move into any form of brand comms kind of role. That strong grounding in communication is always able to help you. I had no plan to move borders, or I was not thinking 15 years back that I must work abroad. I think as you build your career, I always say build it like a jungle and not like a ladder. So do diverse things over time, pick up very diverse set of skills, because what happens if you are actively trying to look working internationally, you must have a skill set that is not just local, but that can be transferred across borders. So skill set like great writing, skill set like communicating.
How did your peers view you when you moved into a different role? Was it tough? What were the challenges that you faced? especially when you came from PR?
I think when it comes to peers looking at you, I personally did not feel that anybody was either less supportive or they think you couldn't do it. I think the biggest challenge is what you have in your mind if you think you can do it. I also don't think feedback is a gift. Take only what you want to take. So if anybody had any doubts about me moving from PR into sales, I actually don't know about it. I did think a lot of times, will I be able to do it? How can I be able to do it? It was a completely new world, completely new terminology. But if you don't doubt yourself and keep working hard, I think even if there are people who doubt you, they would get their answer. The answer always lies in the performance.
So, what were the biggest doubts that you had?
I'll be honest, the first day when I went for my sales induction, I did not know full form of half the terminology that was getting used. So I honestly had to learn everything from scratch. And my doubt was not if I can do it or not. Thinking in my head, and I won't call it a doubt, it was a personal challenge. How well can I be able to do it? You must know this is 15, 16 years ago and even now, many times women don't want to go into sales roles, especially on the field, on the ground, and that's where everybody starts. But I think it was a personal challenge for me. How well can I do it without, having the background in it and really learning from scratch? But that challenge comes in any role you take where you don't know where to start from. And that's the fun about new roles.
So what were the skill sets, that held you in good stead when you made the transition from PR to sales to marketing? What are the basic or the crucial skill sets that you took forward with you from PR?
I think in any role, there are skills that you need to have and pick up, but there are also a lot of personal values that is requirement of the role. And then comes the competencies that you will pick up along the way.
Right.
I reckon some of the skills I had were strong comms, but the values I had was a lot of hard work, learning agility, wanting to do something new and put my mind to it. And I think the competencies that I built up after that was the whole customer centricity. And that happened over time. You might not know 100% that is required in a role you're taking, and that applies to anything. But if you are ready to learn and you go there with 20%, you can pick up the rest 70, 80%.
But any specific PR skills that held you in good stead?
I think my strong skill, and until this day that my colleagues know me for, is my communication. So that is how I communicate with the customers, how I would make a presentation, the effort I would put behind it. Medium is the message, and what to use, how to say it. This is very core PR skill that helped me across my career, be it sales, be it marketing. The other skill I still think I need to keep building up is excellent writing skill. So this is not about blog writing or press release writing. It is from everything from a small email to when you're working with social media agency on what the tweet should be. I think that writing skills and messaging is something we learn academically in PR, and that has helped me a lot as well.
Absolutely. I think those are skills that cross designations as such.
And just to add one more, it's really keeping your pulse on what's the latest. Right. As PR professionals, a campaign 2 years ago is already old, and the market and the world moves really, really fast. So you get used to keeping your eyes open, look at what is topical, what is contextual, how are things shaping up. And that sort of also helps you when you're in marketing, because you keep your eyes open on what's the trend, where is the world going. Something I think I learned more in PR and I applied across in marketing.
Absolutely. When you moved from PR to sales, was there a different perspective that you gave to the campaigns?
I think it is more the different perspective that I got. In PR, your audience is very often your stakeholders or audience is, if it's external or brand PR, then a lot of media, journalists. If it's internal comms, then internal stakeholders. Sales and marketing, your key stakeholder is your customer, and they have to be at the center of what you create. So if I may answer it like that, that gave me a perspective that the most important person who's probably paying my salary is my customer. And how do I make sure I can reach out to the customers in the right way?
I guess what you're saying, what I hear is that the target audience or the end goal changes and it becomes you start playing on a much larger canvas as compared to what you do in PR.
You're right. I think you've captured it well. So I would say key focus in PR could be your media or internal audience, but key focus in sales and marketing is your end customers. And those are the people we make products for, create campaigns for. Putting them in the center is actually something that I learned over time.
Since this podcast is going to be specifically targeted at our end customer, which are PR professionals, what would be your advice to them on the best time and mode to make a shift in their career when they want to move away from PR and into the other verticals that you specified?
Taranjit, honestly, if somebody wants to make a shift in their career, either from PR into something else or from marketing into PR, it is a very person and personality dependent. I made the shift fairly early in my career and I could work right from the ground into a sales and marketing background with the PR skills I had. But I am aware of people who've done PR for 10 to 20 years and then moving into a business advisor, thought leadership positions. So it's a very person dependent. As long as you know it's the right thing for you and you're ready to take the risk, is the right time. And you sometimes don't have to make a shift. It's not that you have to move out of PR. PR is a very good, fulfilling profession, but there are some people who think they want to be more on a profit and loss business side. And if your reasons are right and you're ready to put in the hard work, that's the timing that you should start thinking about making the shift.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move to when you do make the shift, right? When you do make the shift, what are the key skills that one needs to keep adding on to their profile or their learning skill set to be able to survive there?
Each role requires its own set of skills, competencies. Some of these skills you need to have expertise on. Some of the skills, it is okay even if you have the basic skills. So I think it's very role dependent. What would you need? For example, if you move to a position of a brand communications or brand manager, you must know about media. You must know about your internal company systems and processes. You must be aware how research is done, how customer insights are taken. These are some of the things. If you move from PR into a sales role, then you must know all the sales number, your penetration, distribution, route to markets. So it is very role dependent what new skills you need to pick up. And every new role you would do, you need to do it. Some of the key things I think that PR professionals need to be prepared for is very rigorous systems and processes. PR often is looked as a more creative profession compared to some of the other roles like finance or business or sales and marketing in a company. Getting and understanding the rules of the game, the processes, the systems might look like a boring part, but that's what keeps us in a very strong position as we move forward. So know the rules before you bend the rules, knowing that is going to be very, very critical. The other bit is based on the geography you have, based on the job role requirement. I always think you learn 70% of the new skills on the job. So give yourself that time to do it. About 30% of skills come from either training, outside mentors, and have that support system as well.
So, when you transition roles, were there any big surprises for you? Or
every role I have transitioned, there were things that I had where on the learning curve, I had to go from zero to somewhere. I would not call it a surprise because you get into the role knowing that you would be learning new things. But till this date, any new role that I would go into, there would be a set of things I have never done before. And you almost start from scratch. But I think at any age or any stage in your career, when you're learning some things right from the scratch, it keeps you very grounded. And I think it also keeps your brain really alive because you're constantly learning something new. If there was nothing to learn and no surprises, then it would be very boring.
Absolutely. I think constantly learning and actually, going on ground and getting to know things that are happening right there with the customer is very, very essential for your growth.
I also think you need to chalk out your own learning journey. So not to get into specifics, but I was in a role that involved motorcycle once. and I love riding a bike myself, but I had no idea about anything else on the bike. For some weekends, I just went to a mechanic to learn how to repair a bike. Now, did that need it in my role? Not really. But did that give me confidence when I was talking to some of my customers and consumers? Yes. So I think it is not only what is required for you to learn on the paper, you have to put yourself out there and make the learning fun for yourself and pick up new things along the way.
That's a very interesting point that you've picked up, moving beyond the job description. How often have you done this? Moving beyond the job description and just walking into a mechanic's shop and getting to know this.
I honestly really love what I do. So job is not a job, but I strongly believe that job just comes on the paper. The role you create for yourself is what makes people remember you. So paper is a tick mark in the box and things you should do and things you should know. But if you're really out there to excel, shine, move ahead, you have to look at things that people will remember you by, no matter big or small what role you are in.
Right. And that's very true of every job role that you want to excel at, isn't it? So let's come to the last 11 months, which I think have turned the marketing and communication industry pretty much upside down. The rules of engagement, customer priorities have changed because of the pandemic, as have our personal work life. It's been an interesting year to say the least. I want to understand from you, how has your job role changed because of this?
Very interesting question that you ask. I have always been working from office kind of person because I genuinely love the routine of getting up, getting ready, putting on heels, going to office. My biggest learning I had to learn from scratch was how do I work from home and keep that motivation, enthusiasm, and the peak of energy that you would normally do in office. So it's not just in the beginning of the role. As the role evolves, you are constantly learning new things. The second, and not just for me, I think for most of professionals globally, from one day to another, you could start with a big plan in January, and come March, you have to really be agile and change your plans based on how things are happening in the market. I think being quick on the feet, working with people very closely while it is all remote, and then still making sure in the industry, whichever you are in, you are delivering. I think those are some of the challenges, not just me, but a lot of us face this year. But then again, it's a great learning. I know many people, including myself, who've become so comfortable working from home, but first few months were very different. So small skill, but you managing teams remotely and 100% virtual working is the future of work. And we've just been doing it this year. So good learning.
Absolutely. You know, Ruchi, the COVID pandemic has also had brands unlearn and relearn a lot of marketing truths. I think that learning journey still continues in 2021, but this time has, I believe, been a time of introspection for most brands. And the resulting campaigns have been very unique and intriguing. Some have done a complete 360-degree shift, reevaluated who they are, what they stand for, and have had to challenge themselves to find a new way to connect with their consumers. I want to know from you, what are some of the campaigns, in overall marketing campaigns that have caught your eye?
A good question. A lot of brands did a lot of campaigns, especially this year or the C word year. Let me first start with there were a lot of campaigns that looked similar, were similar, and the messaging was similar, which brings me back to the point. If we can't get the messaging right, no matter what stream you're in, sales, marketing, PR, or just tags, you would not get attention. The one campaign that I think has a backbone in PR, but a great marketing campaign is what Burger King did. Now, Burger King and McDonald's, all of us know, are like ace competitors. But Burger King recently released a letter that says, so if you want to help, order a Big Mac. I think that was the message sort of broke the clutter. And Burger King is encouraging people to order from McDonald's and the likes, also made them look like they are in leadership position in the fast food chain business. And I think when they do something like this, it was a very simple campaign, just a letter, but it did take on social media, became a talking point in many places. Very well thought through, great message. So instead of saying stay home or be safe or we salute our heroes. They just sort of spoke for the whole fast food industry by putting the competition aside and coming together. Great campaign in marketing, thought leadership, and brilliant PR campaign.
We noticed that too. It was the talk in our country as well. I think it took the entire marketing media by storm as well.
Because you're not expecting it. In PR, we say when a dog bites a man, it's not a news, but when a man bites a dog, it's the news. And there's a human angle. I think it was breaking the clutter. It was path breaking, but also there was a lot of human interest in it. Right. Almost saying we are in all this together. And I think that's a really great stand a brand took.
It's good that you mentioned this because I have noticed that across the marketing verticals, there has been a huge shift in customer approach, or rather the orientation towards customer approach. Pre-COVID as well, there was a lot of chatter about this, but I think the pandemic has forced them to actually take cognizance of it and add a huge layer of empathy to it. Has that also been your observation as well? And how will this impact the marketing vertical this year?
I think empathy has always been a very important part of putting yourself out there as a brand. Brand is if I could say, it's a hero and it follows a hero's journey. The big change that happened is people became co-creators in the story. So instead of you narrating the brand story and making it a one-way broadcast, which I think we often do in PR as well. We want to control the message and make it a one-way broadcast. More and more brands are looking at a two-way conversation with either their end consumer or customers or public at large. Empathy is one part of it, but making consumers either co-creators or getting them on board on your journey is a big shift that is happening. COVID has accelerated the shift, I think, because people are genuinely looking for brands that come across as more humane than purely transactional. I think that is a big shift that has been happening because of the mood of the nations. But empathy and the two-way street started a while back already. And the brands that are doing it well are really excelling. And there are a lot of indie brands, small brands that are doing extremely well in connecting with the end consumer and doing the journey together.
Absolutely. So your predictions for 2021, what does the future hold?
I think if I could just break down the predictions in terms of sales and marketing, I think the brand funnel as we look at where you do a big campaign, build awareness, and eventually go to build loyalty, I think that funnel is going to get probably inverted. You would have to connect with your really key customers, and then they would help you amplify the message if they're on the journey together with you. So you're almost thinking of reversal of the brand funnel. Some of the other changes that are going to happen is there's going to be a lot of prioritization on health, safety. I don't think we're going to stop washing our hands even after a year or 2 years. It's a habit forming big shift that has happened in the market. So health, safety would be a priority. I also think a lot of economy is going to go back to personal ownness of things than shared. But that is something we have to see because there is less inclination to have shared economy and more towards let me have my own car. I don't want to use public transport. I want to be safer. These things could then make a shift in some of the other things. But these top three things stand out for me, how 2021 would go.
What are the three things that you see will change in 2021?
I think one thing as a marketer we all have to get used to is virtual versus real. So this is not, so we've been over time either doing meetups or campaigns and people are coming and seeing and big events are happening. Brands that would successfully be able to do the same scale of things, but from people joining from the living rooms. I think that is going to be a big shift. It'll take a lot of thinking, but how do you create the same experience for your stakeholders that you were doing by either taking them to a stadium or motorsports or any of the big events like. So we have to be very smart and quick on our feet to think through it. People would want experiences. How do we create them in the virtual world? I think that will be one. Two, as a marketer, while we do long-term planning, what this crisis has taught the world is sometimes you need to be quick on your feet and make changes at a short notice to make sure things are going right at that moment. So I think both long-term, short-term planning and how agile teams would work would be very, very critical. Third one, as a marketer, the big shift that will happen is reaching to people, because a lot of media habits have changed. So how are people consuming the media? Which channels are people consuming the media? And if they are on subscription platforms, either for reading or for watching, how do you really get hold of your end customer? And one has to be very smart about it. Attention span will go down. Media habits would change as they are changing this year, and it'll evolve into something different than pre-2019 world. How do you really reach out to end customers is something we have to be very smart about and innovative about and reach them to in the right way.
Thank you, Ruchi, for sharing these insights. I think you hit the nail on the head. Tracking media habits and changing consumption patterns is something that I think all verticals of marketing, including communication, will have to keep a close watch on now more than ever before. And that brings me to my last question. Your best advice to PR professionals who are looking at creating a global career in marketing.
Any PR professional that is looking at building a career across geographies internationally, either in PR or outside PR in other functions, I think the most critical bit is pick up the skills that can be transferred across geographies. For example, if you only know about the media and how things work, either in media buying or media associations in one country, it could be very different in another country. And that's a bit tough to learn if you want to get a head start into building career. But there are some skills that work same well from one country to another. Pick up those skill sets based on your ambition and build a suite of things that you can offer on the job, irrespective of if the job is in India or China or Australia or Europe. What are some of the 2 or 3 things that everybody needs everywhere, and really build mastery and expertise on them, and the other skills you would eventually learn on the way. Just be open to learning them.
Absolutely. I think that's very good life advice as well, irrespective of profession that you want to kind of go.
I was given this advice. that this was actually an advice given to me. And I realized that big shift from sales. Very often sales is really done well by locals, but marketing can be done as long as you have a marketing brain to do it and skills to do it. So I think that's what you need to think of. If you really want to be in sales, you really need to know lay of the land. You can do it in other markets, but you have to give yourself time to feel that much comfortable and knowing the market and customers. But some of the marketing and communication skills, you can actually bring new insight to a new geography, how things are done.
Absolutely. Lovely talking to you as always.
Lovely speaking to you, Taranjeet. Always nice to speak to you. And thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast.
Awesome. So that was Ruchi Kaushal giving us an insight into how to craft your career beyond PR. I hope you took some great insights from this conversation. I know I have. Would like to give a shout out to the good folks at PRPOI. This episode was brought to you via a special arrangement with them. Thank you again for tuning in today, and we will see you next week for another interesting conversation from the world of communication. See you then.